And showtime! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the ChannelPro 5-Minute Roundup. A look at news, trends, and tips for the SMB channel in 5 minutes or thereabouts. My name is Rich Freeman. I am executive editor of the ChannelPro Network. I am also one of the co-hosts of this program. I am joined this week, as I am every week, by your other co-host, Eric Simpson, a business transformation and improvement advisor to MSPs and other IT providers. Eric, how you doing?
Doing great, Rich. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. How are you doing?
I am doing well, thank you very much. As we record this, we are right on the eve of another fabulous ChannelPro SMB Forum event. This particular one is going to be a virtual event, but we're going to be doing a bunch of hybrid events with an in-person audience as we get through the year as well. So super excited about that.
It's going to be a great event, as they all are, Rich.
Thank you so much. The check is in the mail. Well, let's dive into this week's top story here, and it's an interesting one. So, as we speak, Ititglue is doing its annual partner event, which they call GlueX. That's a virtual event. The big news that they announced during that event is that they have made an acquisition, and the company that they bought is called TruMethods. Now, TruMethods may or may not be familiar to some folks in the audience. I mean, that name, but the name that everyone in the audience probably recognizes is Gary Pica. And Gary Pica is the president of TruMethods, the founder. He is also really one of the pioneers of managed services as we know it today, along with you, Eric. Around the same time you were kind of figuring out how this recurring revenue model, proactive support sort of thing could work, so was Gary, and he built one of the first very successful MSPs and sold it. He has been one of the leading names in MSP consulting ever since then. So all of that actually makes him very valuable to Ititglue and by extension to Kaseya, which is Ititglue's parent company. But the real reason that they bought TruMethods is kind of interesting. So for a number of years now, Gary has been offering a product, a software solution called My IT Process. And it's designed to sort of capture and automate and streamline the process of providing virtual CIO, VCIO services to a managed services customer. So it allows you to collect information about that customer, come up with a strategic technology plan for the customer, generate reports about that, and kind of guide them through the process of rolling that all out. There has been some integration between the Ititglue documentation platform and My IT Process before, where you've been able to get a certain amount of information from Ititglue into the My IT Process system. But what Ititglue officially rolled out this week in conjunction with the acquisition was a full-blown end-to-end kind of integration in which you can import all of the information that you need upfront to understand the customer's current IT environment directly out of Ititglue into My IT Process, which is obviously a huge time saver for the MSP. And the vision going forward is to actually extend that even further so that you'll be able to generate the My IT Process reports out of Ititglue. And then once the customer agrees to make the acquisitions that they need to, the purchases they need to execute on the plan, you'll be able to feed that through to Kaseya's PSA system, for example, if you use it, and do all the sales and fulfillment that way. So long-term vision for the product. I think what's most interesting about this to me, Eric, and I'm curious to get your perspective, is just that Ititglue and Kaseya both saw this as an opportunity to invest in that VCIO model. According to Fred Vacola, the CEO of Kaseya, he's estimating, but maybe 1 in 30 MSPs today have a virtual CIO offering of some kind. And he thinks over the course of the next few years, you're going to see that get to about 1 in 5, because MSPs are increasingly understanding that their customers want to have a strategic relationship with their IT provider. They're not just looking for somebody who can keep the IT lights on, if you will. And so this positions Ititglue and Kaseya to get in on something that that both those companies really see as being important and increasingly important in upcoming years to MSPs, the virtual CIO market, Eric.
Yes, and congratulations to Gary and everyone over at TruMethods. Yeah, Gary and I go back quite a ways. It's been a really interesting and fulfilling journey, I think, watching peers and industry thought leaders and experts, really succeed and grow for me. And I think, the other component, and I think you're right about the unique value proposition of having a platform with subscribers, right? Let's not forget there's lots of subscribers to my IT process that are coming along with this to deliver virtual CIO services. The vast majority of partners that I speak with are not delivering those services. I mean, and to be fair, not a lot of them are doing great at, strategic quarterly business reviews either. So I think this kind of addresses both of those opportunities, right? To have a process backed by a platform that integrates with systems that already have data in them from automated data collection and from the additional data input that the technicians are putting into Ititglue and from the other disparate systems, Kaseya systems. And then to make it easy now to produce a report that allows you to have a much higher level of strategic conversation with your clients and make it easier to have them more frequently. So as the VCIO, you're really reinforcing kind of that strategic quarterly business review meeting framework, right? So I think it's going to do very, very well for Kaseya partners and be used as a differentiator and a distinguisher as they go out and try to recruit new partners, maybe from some of their competitors along the way. One aspect of this story, Rich, that you hadn't touched on yet is, the peer groups that are also coming over to Ititglue and maybe the parent company of Kaseya. As you know, we covered the story not too long ago of ConnectWise's acquisition of the HTG peer groups as well. So I saw some parallels from that front, but I do think that the priority value proposition was more the platform and the integration. But just saying, partners need peer groups too.
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's an important point. So there are actually a few things there that I should clarify, because these questions always come up when an acquisition like this is made. So first of all, if you are a My IT Process user today and you're not using Ititglue, although I think there's a lot of overlap between those customer bases, but if you're not an Ititglue user, you don't wish to be, that's fine. You're not going to be compelled, as I understand it, to become an Ititglue user. If you are a member of one of Gary's peer groups, you're actually going to see little to nothing change. And Gary really made a point of emphasizing this with me. We're not going to force people to move on to Kaseya. If you're a ConnectWise or a Datto or an Enable user, that's fine. There's not going to be some mandatory selection of tools that you have to use now going forward. It's business as usual for the peer group members, and that was written, explicitly into the deal that Gary negotiated with Kaseya.
Yeah, I remember reading that he was very specific about that. And Gary enjoys that. He enjoys that spirit of helping other entrepreneurs grow their businesses and helping them move the needle. He and I, are very similar in that way. We get a lot of satisfaction from that, and that came through very clearly from the story with Gary, being very intentional about the agreement being written in that fashion to give him the ability to continue doing what he loves doing so much.
So speaking of being helpful to IT providers, that's a great lead into your tip of the week. You've got a book recommendation.
I do. It's been a minute since I gave a book recommendation, so I figured, I've been using this book for many years, and I use it and recommend it to all of the partners that I work with through coaching or consulting for them and their teams. And it's a leadership book. So if you are building a team of high performers and you're challenged in motivating them or increasing performance and things like that, I always say, let's look at leadership first and what we're doing as leaders in order to to influence and encourage our teams to take action. You know, Rich, the definition of leadership is the ability to influence someone to take action. Now, there's lots of examples throughout history of bad leadership, right? So we don't want to emulate any of that stuff, but what we want to do is really understand what the 5 levels of leadership are. And according to John Maxwell, they begin with level 1 is position or positional leadership. And this is the ability to influence someone to take action simply because of your title or role. So this is someone that may not yet have earned the respect or loyalty of someone that they are managing, but because they are their boss, that person will do what they say. Typically between 8 to 5 and then not beyond that, right? So they'll do their job, but they're really not going to go above and beyond for that particular leader. And these are all levels of your relationship as you gauge them with other members of your team. So if you have a level 1 relationship with an individual, that's basically a title relationship, and you're going to get, you know, what they need to keep their job basically. Level 2 of leadership is called permission leadership by John. And permission leadership is all about based on the relationship that you've built with another individual. So when an individual feels like you care about them, that you're doing everything you can to help them succeed, that you care about their family and their desires and their dreams, and are helping to, and they see you as helping foster that, then you're earning that permission level of leadership. And what this gets you is someone that will go above and beyond 8 to 5 and do things for you because you asked, and because they're, you know, recognizing your care about them, and they care now for you as well and want to make sure that you succeed. So that's level 2, that's permission. Now level 3 is production, right? The third level of leadership is production, sorry. And this is where the rubber really meets the road, where you've built a bunch of level 2 relationships with the folks that you're leading. They are putting in that midnight oil, that extra effort, and you really are starting to see the flywheel spin in terms of productivity and getting things done. So that's level 3, that's production. That's when the rubber meets the road. When you've gotten your folks to that level 2, then you can really make things happen. Level 4 of leadership is people development. This is now where you are taking your level 3 leaders, and you are now helping them become leaders of other teams. So now you're guiding and mentoring them and creating other leaders beneath those folks that you have worked with to develop to level 3 and beyond. So that's your level 4. Now, level 5 is really considered the pinnacle of leadership by John Maxwell. And that's really the name of that level. It's pinnacle. It's the highest and most difficult level of leadership to achieve. In fact, not many people reach that, because levels 1 through 4 can be learned, right? You can learn how to lead people. And you remember the old adage, Rich, that says, great leaders are born, not made. Well, level 1 through 4 leaders are made because you can learn that stuff. Level 5 requires not only effort, skill, and intentionality, but a high level of people talent. You've really got to be that unique people person to get to that level 5 of leadership. And what that is you are now building level 4 leaders and maybe even level 5 leaders along with you or even above you. So that is the pinnacle of leadership. And as I mentioned, you can have a team of people and have different levels of leadership relationships with every single one of them. But our job as leaders at the end of the day is to replace ourselves. So this makes perfect sense in this framework to understand where you are with everyone, what you need to do to work on those relationships to increase production and to build other leaders and replace yourself over time, and teach them to do the same thing.
So Eric, you know a lot of MSPs. You work with a lot of MSPs. I mean, if you were broad brushstroke, if you were to say where the typical SMB or excuse me MSP client of yours falls on that scale today, what would you say?
I'd say the typical one falls between permission and production, really. I mean, I think, thinking the best of people. I know MSPs care about their teams. They understand the value. They see them as part of their extended family. I mean, let's face it, we've all done, the insane disaster recoveries together, and, have sweated through thick and thin. So I think that, you don't get that without having the permission level of leadership. Where I see a lot of MSPs struggle, and where I try to help, is getting them to that production stage where we're really producing, we're being as efficient as possible, as profitable as possible. And a lot of that, has to do with things above and beyond the leadership focus. I mean, you've got to have a strategy to help your staff succeed by optimizing your platforms, documenting your processes, and holding folks accountable to executing those processes, making sure that the leadership piece is the people piece, and making sure that your products and services are priced and bundled and are easy to deliver and to manage over time. So there's a lot of drivers here, but from the 4 P's of business improvement that I always mention, to me, they're people, platforms, processes, and products and services. The most challenging is always the people part. So this is a great book to refer to when you're intentionally working on building your people skills and building high-performing teams. It's The 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Very good. Wherever books are sold, folks. And that leaves us with time for just one more story this week. And it comes to us from our dirtbag employer department. I trust that the typical MSP you do business with will not relate to this story, at least as an employer. This is based on a letter that was sent to a sort of advice column that MarketWatch, the business website, runs. And somebody wrote in recently, and he said that he did some business development work for a tech company on a contract basis last year. The CEO stated in the contract that he was going to pay the contractor in cryptocurrency. He didn't say which one in this letter, but we're going to pay you in a cryptocurrency. And so August 2020, sure enough, he gets paid for his services in some cryptocurrency or another. Since then, the value of that cryptocurrency has gone up 700%. And what is it now? 8-ish months since August 2020, this guy gets a letter recently saying, hey, we need you to give back the cryptocurrency so we can just pay you in dollars. So the letter to the advice column was, there's no way in hell I actually should do that, is there? And that was pretty much the answer that he got. But man, that question alone is kind of unbelievable.
Yeah, at the bottom of the wastebasket in the dirtbag employer department is where we found that story, Rich.
Oh, well, a desperate attempt to claw back a little money that I certainly hope did not work out. Folks, that is all the time we've got this week on the 5-Minute Roundup. We thank you so much for joining us. The 5-Minute Roundup is both a podcast and a video. If you are listening to the podcast right now, we would love it. We would appreciate it if you would go into the podcasting or podcatcher of your choice, wherever you're listening to us right now, and give us that coveted 5-star rating. It makes the show easier for other people to find, and that's a good thing for them. Why not go ahead and give us the 5 stars? Hey, if you are listening to the podcast right now, the other thing you can do is go to the ChannelPro Network channel on YouTube and become a subscriber. Check us out on video. If you click the little bell icon in YouTube there, you'll actually get notification when the new videos go up as well. To read more about Ititglue buying TruMethods, get all sorts of great business growth advice for your company, please visit ChannelProNetwork.com every day, because we've got great new content for you there every day. And to learn more about Eric and the work he does with his clients, please visit ErickSimpson.com. That is ERICK Simpson.com. Once again, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back again next week with another episode for you. Until then, please Enjoy the rest of your week. Eric and I are enjoying the rest of your week already.
already.